Welcome back to the sounds of Baskerville. I'm with the man himself, Chris Baskerville. How you doing, Chris?
Good morning, James.
Yeah, Chris, so over the last several episodes, we really delved into the business lesson. Like, what are the take-homes that people can say, hang on, this is me. This is where my business is at. What are the lessons I could take away from Chris's experience? Let's just spin it around a little bit now and say, look, let's follow a theme, follow a story. Because we've talked about the fact you've got 1,500 case studies or more of scenarios where people have done it right, they've done it wrong, they've done it ish. So let's find a theme to talk about each episode, about the decision that was made or the mistake that was made or the piece of absolute Aussie genius that just pulled this thing out of the fire. And then people will be able to take away, hang on, is that me at the end of it? Or maybe there'll be stories where there'll be a little piece of a lot of these things in all of us as we go. So it's to watch out for the extremes, or what's the scenario that pulled it undone or put out the fire. What about we do just the one thing? So what's the just the one thing? So a great business looks good, sounds good, tastes good, but just the one thing that they did that turned it around or blew the whole thing up. You say, and I suppose the scenario is, what do they do? What happened? And then where did it all go wrong? I think pulling from your experience. So I'm often thinking of, it's that scene where the person's standing up in the front of the stage and then some person pushes a cream pie right into their face.
Well, what a brilliant segue, James, as if I had pre-planned this by some stage. But I think, two case studies did come to mind when I was thinking about this. I guess the first case study is probably a lesson in hubris. Hubris.
Word. Okay, yeah.
Yep. I think, in effect, hubris is reckless overconfidence. And I guess you can see that sometimes in business where I'm so confident of my desire, will, business, that I'm not going to listen to anybody tell me that it can't be done or should be done a different way. And in doing so, like a bull in a china shop, I'm just going ahead and, or if you want to use the Greek tragedy sort of view on hubris, it's excessive pride or defiance of the gods. And you know what happens in Greek tragedies when we defy the gods.
Yeah, that always ends in tears. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, correct. But yeah, this practical example, and a great segue on pie. But yeah, we had one of the first jobs that sort of arrived when I first joined with my firm was a national, let's just call it a pie retailer and pie manufacturer. And the idea behind it is, as a head office, we will manufacture pies. We will then sell those pies to our franchisors who have retail shops. And, of course, the consumers then buy the pies straight from the retailer.
What a great business.
Amazing business.
Aussie success story. We've written all over it.
It's Aussie as, James. I mean, the great pie is ingrained in our culture.
That's right.
And, of course, there's a lot of variety of pies out there, would you believe,
Yes. So it's chugging along this great business by the sound of it.
It's chugging along. I think people would generally roll out of the pub about 2 or 3 in the morning, bang, go and grab a pie.
That's right. So you've got your gyros, you've got your pie, you've got all the options.
You've got the kebab down the road.
Yeah,
correct.
that's awesome. Yeah.
So seeing this and what's coming, obviously our director has gone, well, this is just the greatest business that I've ever seen. And so I'm going to rapidly expand everything. So I'm basically going to build the infrastructure, build it and they will come. But I'm going to do it in a reckless way with disregard to the business gods. Follow the analogy. We've got now a director that can't be told what to do, sees the vision and a marketplace to exploit, and he just runs hard. He creates effectively a factory that is capable of handling 200 retail stores in terms of volume.
Right.
At a time where there were only 70 stores available. So
lots of room for growth.
Lots of room for growth.
Right.
Problem is we're running out of cash, James. But not only that, not all of the 70 stores are actually profitable. In fact, I think we discovered that all of the corporate-owned stores were losing money. So in other words, the corporate-owned stores owned by the head office of this particular franchise were losing money. The franchisees themselves that own their own stores were making profits. And so effectively, we've got a factory that's capable of doing 2/3 more capacity than what it currently is. So basically it's an underutilized factory. But not only that, we've staffed it at the level of what would it take to make 200 stores work. But we've only got 70 stores that are calling for our product. So you can probably understand where this story goes when the administrators then get called in.
Can you step us into the mind of that decision making? That's purely drinking too much of your own Kool-Aid, or what is that?
Yeah. Oh, look. I can't say I can step into the mindset of, but I get the personality type that would kind of do that, which is, I've discovered effectively my niche. I've found the market. I'm almost creating my own market. I can't be told what to do. The pie in the sky type thinking, which is, how can we go wrong?
It was a bit slow. I got that. Yeah. I was thinking because we certainly hit peak pie a lot earlier than we sort of had planned with our 200 outlet supporting mega factory, supporting over double, nearly triple his demand. So the only way you can possibly make this thing grow is to go out there and aggressively buy as many locations as you can and get as many franchises as you can, and to try and feed this engine that you must
feed the beast,
which must be just this money pit.
That was actually an interesting point you just raised, which is now I need outlets, right? Now I need franchisees. So you can imagine the aggression that would have been put on the sales of getting franchisees to the party. But also, because this guy was expanding at a rate of knots and landlords knew he needed prime retail tenancy, which I still can't get my head around why you need prime retail to sell a pie. Like, what, you got Louis Vuitton, Gucci, and then you got a pie shop. But anyway, landlords saw him coming, so this guy, he had no leverage to try and negotiate better terms. The landlord said, well, we know you need to expand. We also are in a market where, things are actually doing quite well in retail. So if you want my prime retail, landlords actually started putting the price up on this fellow. So what he would ordinarily pay for retail leasing, they ended up jacking the price up.
So is that like when you see in movies where people are playing that card game where they've got a card on there stuck to their forehead? It's like, there's no secrets
guess
about...
Guess who I am?
Yeah, guess I am. So I'm the guy who's over leveraged and I desperately need to expand to feed them. And there is a little bit of the field of dreams thing about if I build it, they will come potentially.
Yes.
Maybe.
Yeah, 100%. I think visionaries that are so pick-a-hewn on their view, and not what I mean by that is they're so laser focused on what it is they're trying to do, and they can't be told any other way to get things done. My way, James, I know you're a good accountant, but look, I know me and my business better, and away we go.
Yeah, I've got a feel for pie.
Yeah.
I get pie.
Yeah.
So, okay, I've got pie, now built something that's 3 times as big as it needs to be. I've gone around beating up people to become either a franchise. I'm getting my eyes ripped out. Leases. This is going to end badly. So then they call in the fire brigade.
Now Now we're running out of money. We can't understand why. I mean, how could my perfect little baby here be so wrong, So yes, administrators then called in, but also this guy would have, in order to rapidly expand, would have leveraged some version of capital and obviously had to borrow some money. Money needs to be paid back. And so now we've got effectively, let's just call them the bank. Not identified, obviously, for the purpose of this discussion, but now they're obviously going, hey, where's our money? And he's obviously saying, hey, look what I've done. I've built this humongous factory. It's centralised distribution system. We only need one factory to service the entire length of Australia, which in itself is a logistical nightmare.
Yeah.
Because where are you going to put the factory, and how do you get it over to Perth or Northern Territory or Adelaide? Think about those logistics. So we've got this and cash flow drain. So naturally, a fair whack of financial pressure now starts to come on the company because it's overcapitalised effectively and it's expanded way too quick for what the demand in the market was there. And so they've had to call in responsibly administrators to take over the business and do effectively, this is a good example of a proper business restructuring.
Oh, okay. So the thing does, I think if I'm recalling the name of the organisation, I might have seen the odd one of those around still. So it's not, the name goes on, even if it's in a different form.
Correct. So this business is still alive today thanks to the work of the administrators that worked on that file. Obviously, the business model has changed rapidly because obviously, I think this
What do you do with a 200-store pie factory? Is there a market for those?
Well, I think true to administrators' form, we go straight to the numbers now. So now we're looking at each individual store and their performance. We're looking at the output of the factory and the efficiencies there. We now start to see that this factory is overcapitalised from a people perspective. In other words, we have way too much staff in a factory that's producing way less product. So people, I think 2/3 of the staff in the factory had to be made redundant. But also, going through the lines of each one of the stores there, we worked out the corporate stores were losing money, and the brutal decision had to come from the administrators, those corporate stores need to be shut down. You know, you can't have these cash flow drain on the loss-making stores to prop up the profit-making ones. You had to actually get this business back to the size that actually makes it work. So 2/3 of staff in the factory were let go. And I think out of the 70 stores, 20 of them had to be shut down. So now we're left with just simply the 50 owned by the franchisees.
Owned by the franchisees. As you and I've talked about such things in the past, you know, in a restructure, if you can get as much money back into the hands of the people who are the creditors as you can, save as many jobs.
Save as many jobs and preserve the business as much as you can. So unfortunately, in this scenario, and probably not unsurprisingly, effectively the board of directors that were the ones that made the decision, obviously, I guess we could call it the chairman of the board that just had this laser focused view on what the business should be doing. The administrators made the call to effectively terminate all the directors as well, because I guess when you're sort of looking at a scenario where we need to shrink this business back to its core, where it can actually start making money, we then have to market that out there to the world and see who's actually willing to buy that business now that it's been restructured down or effectively downsized to where it can make money. Some people said, well, we will acquire the business. We like the staff. Staff are brilliant, but we're not taking any of those former decision makers moving forward because we actually, frankly, think that they probably made all tactically wrong decisions.
Yeah. So it's a great idea, but, and the but means in this case, this hubris, the one thing that undid them all was a massive, like people lost their jobs. Self-proclaimed visionary walks off into the night, possibly with a number of quite significant personal debts accrued. So is there any other scenario, like can you think of other situations where you've got sort of the one key decision driven by, clearly in this, maybe not a lot of research? I don't
Well, what's funny, James, is thinking about 1,500 or so cases that you have worked on. I guess a lot of the cases are, let's just call it, very process driven, nothing too surprising, nothing too out of the ordinary. It's almost like your bread and butter type scenario that you face. It's really the top 5% that really is where the interest from an insolvency practitioner's perspective, because that's some extraordinary decisions that are going on. But yeah, I guess the second example to sort of think about is when a business deviates from its actual core product or service. So, and we quite often see this in business, which is, as an example, hey, I'm very, very good at producing a widget, but now all of a sudden I'm going to go into property development. because and you sort of go, what? You're really good at producing that widget. Your efficiencies are amazing, all that sort of one. Where does your experience come from for going into property development, which is its own beast? Like, property development is so to get right, because if you get it wrong, wow, it goes horribly wrong. As an example, but I think for the purpose of today, and quite ironic that our target audience may be accountants out there, but yes, this fellow was actually an accountant, ran a successful accounting practice, very, very good at that, and decided that he wanted to compete against a very international brand donut and create an Aussie version of that same donut, except when you're sort of looking at all your competitors' sort of types of donuts, the things that sell, I mean, what do we as a consumer really want from a donut? We kind of want something that's light and fluffy and coated in sugar.
That's right. Yeah.
We all know donuts are bad, right?
That's right. Yeah.
We go there because we want
value.
that. That's right. Yeah. There is zero nutrition value in a donut, but we love them because, it just satisfies that little niche inside of us at that particular point in time.
It's a little bit of joy with a hole in the middle, isn't it?
Yeah. Some of us corporates drink, 4 or 5 cups of coffee a day, and just occasionally we just want one donut.
Yeah, I'm sold. So it sounds like what could possibly go wrong.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
So here we go. We've got this guy. He wants to compete against an international brand and decides, I'm going to create the Aussie version of what this guy is doing, except I'm going to change my formula for the donut. Like we said,
right.
James, what we really want is just a light piece of fluff with a lot of sugar on it. This guy thought, do you know what I think the Australian people need? We just need to make it a bit more wheaty, make it a bit more heavier style donut.
Like a whole grain donut.
And so we end up with a donut that tastes like bread, like it's starting. But this guy, you can't convince this guy any other way.
No. There just needs to be someone in the room to say, no,
exactly.
Step away.
Yeah, so you think about the advisor to this guy. And do you know what? Similar hallmarks to the directors in these scenarios. They're directors that can't be told what to do. I'm so locked into my vision. And here we go. So we've created a wheatier donut that feels like bread.
Wow. That'll really rush off the shelves.
Well, it should go without saying, James, what was the net result of this? This donut business no longer exists in the Australian
What a
marketplace.
surprise. Because there wasn't an overwhelming demand for whole grain bread donuts. Yeah. In Venice, I'm quite partial to a bagel. And so, as a friend of mine hassled me for eating boiled bread with a hole in the middle. So, if you want a wheaty Hubris donut, you'd eat a bagel, wouldn't you? And I mean, bagels are nice, but I've not doused them with that cinnamony, sugary. It's just going to taste like a bagel with sugar on.
Should add, James, a good donut should be deep fried.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Of course.
This was not deep fried, James. This was baked.
So this was...
I can feel your heart and guts being wrenched from your body.
That's right, yeah. I can, yeah, right. Right, so on so many levels that was wrong. And so in this case, the one thing was, it was just wrong. But I mean, so he couldn't, again, it was hubris. He or she could not be told or would not be told or refused to listen, or do people get into a kind of a channel thinking where they will not be turned away from their course?
I think people think they understand their target market better than what they actually do. So in other words, I think there is a market out there for someone that does want, a heavier, wheatier baked donut. And I'm not saying that idea is not successful. It's just I think this guy over-exaggerated, overthought that was the majority of the people that were out there. And he was trying to take on an international producer of these donuts, thinking that the market thought his way. And there is a market for a heavier, wheatier baked donut, James. Don't get me wrong. It just might not be as big as what he had gone out to business to produce.
So you're thinking that in a sense, that we've touched on this in a number of episodes, there can be great ideas that still don't work out. A lot of times. There's lots of apps and businesses that you'd see, restaurants, cuisines. There's a lot of great ideas. It's just, is there enough in the good idea for it actually to make money and be successful in the longer term?
Or the execution of the idea was done poorly. So a good idea, you've got the market, you've just executed this vision poorly.
Right, okay. So I think that's a great note to think about something for next time. Mm-hmm. So we've covered off on sort of hubris, falling with the gods, drinking too much of our own Kool-Aid, and the consequences of not seeking opinions other than your own or the echo chamber of all people who agree with you today. So I like that idea about execution, some of that sort of stuff. Let's continue on this theme of the one thing, or the theme that got us undone, got us out of the fire. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, James.
A reminder that these podcasts are general in nature and do not constitute advice, and they don't take into account your personal circumstances. So if you think, though, that some of the issues raised might apply to you, you should seek qualified financial, legal or counselling advice.